Hello and welcome to Celtic World, the Celtic channel for fans all around the globe. Whether you're in Paisley or Pretoria, whether you're in Easterhouse or Easter Island, you're all very welcome here to discuss all things Celtic. So we are a fairly new channel. We only got going this season and we've just crashed through the 900 subscribers mark. So we're charting towards 1,000 as soon as we can. So if you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button. And even if you don't like what you hear, hit it anyway, just to give us a wee hand. So we go live on a Monday and a Thursday, and I'll just put up the times we go live. So if you're in Sydney, like myself, or the east coast of Australia, it's 8:30 p.m. If you're in Seoul, it's 6:30. Hong Kong, Singapore, 5:30. Abu Dhabi, 1:30. Rome, 10:30 a.m. Celtic Park, 9:30 a.m. Pittsburgh, 4:30 a.m. And if you're super keen or just a little bit mental, it's 1:30 a.m. in Los Angeles. So if you're tuning in from Los Angeles, get a life, basically.
Fair play.
All right, so who's joining me on a Celtic World today? So firstly, my fellow Australian, albeit 3 time zones away, Paul Massey. How you doing, Paul?
I'm good, Steve. Yeah, we're in Perth. So, yeah, same time zone as Hong Kong, Singapore, and the guys in Malaysia. So, yeah, happy to be here.
And also joining us is a Twitter legend, joining us from the belly of the beast. It's the Kaiser.
Yo, legends. Thanks for having us. Kaiser here, live from Ibrox. Thanks, everyone, for being in the chat. Hail, hail. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe, like Stephen said.
And Brian, who's in Ireland. How's it going, Brian?
In the words of Larry David, pretty good. No, terrible impersonation. Very happy, yeah. Good Monday morning.
All right, so welcome on everybody who's in the comments as well. We've been getting really good numbers on the live streams, last couple of shows. So welcome along and please feel free to join the conversation. First up, the Port Shop Express. Hail, hail for Doric country. All's well that ends well. Indeed, plenty of improvement needed though. And who's this guy here commenting?
Oh, that's a rocket,
Kaiser.
that guy.
Commenting and joining the show at the same time.
Absolute rocket.
Michael Ross, hail, hail, my fellow relieved Celts. And Christopher Georges, is that right? HS boys. So welcome along. All right, so what we're going to talk about tonight, I'll just put this up along the bottom of the screen. So firstly, we're going to talk about the Motherwell game on Sunday night, Monday morning here. We're going to touch on the half-yearly financial report that was sneaked out on Friday night by Celtic under cover of darkness. Then we're going to talk a bit about Joe Hart on the occasion of his retirement and maybe pay a bit of a tribute to him for his time at Celtic. And then we're going to look ahead to the next vital game against Dundee at Celtic Park on Wednesday night. And then, as usual, we'll do our Celtic socials.
I've got my fingers crossed for a fair go Sharky. A good heart these days is hard to find in the style of Gav. Fingers are crossed. I'm waiting on it.
All right, let's dive right in there. We'll talk about the Motherwell game on the weekend. Firstly, we'll talk about the starting lineup. Paul, do you want to talk us through that and see if there was any major surprises?
Well, I don't know if there was that many major surprises. Maybe Iwata coming straight into the starting team was a bit of a surprise. Although I think we did expect something to be shaken up in the team. 4 changes. Johnson back from injury. Nawrocki finally getting a start. Iwata in. And I think Kuhn was the 4th starter that hadn't started in the previous match. I think I've got those right. So back to 4-3-3. Again, I sort of felt we might do that. I was pretty pleased, to be honest, when the team lines came up. You could argue the toss maybe about some of the wingers. But at least it was sort of, the back line in theory looked stronger. And I just thought we would be trying to get Kyogo into those favoured positions, given, going back to that position from, the 4-4-1-1 that had been trialled and limited success, I guess. I think the problem with that is we probably looked a little bit, we looked a bit weaker in midfield, and it never completely clicked, albeit Kyogo got a couple of goals. I don't think it worked that well for Ada, really. So, I was reasonably happy with the lineup, but the first half was really one to forget.
Yeah, and Brian, Cameron Carter-Vickers on the bench. Were you a bit surprised that he didn't start the game, and maybe given if he was worth 60 minutes maybe at the start of the game rather than coming on at the end? Would you have preferred to see that?
Yeah, definitely would have preferred to see CCV on. Nawrocki, he was okay, but you could see when Cameron Carter-Vickers come on the 60th minute, there were even the physicality. He was in there, he was getting stuck in. He was calm head. And saying that, Nawrocki was pushing forward and he was trying to, I don't think I've counted any times that he pushed the ball back. But it's a good thing to have, having the two of them there. And I think obviously, I don't know if you noticed at the end of the game, apologies for my rambling, but whenever the big fella scored, CCV was on the floor with AJ, so always good to see. Again, CCV, he's the man. He just puts the fear in everybody. When he can muscle a lot of people out. Just wanted to say thought Mugabe had a great game for Motherwell and potentially one to look at next season as a squad member. Don't know what you think about that, but yeah, good to see CCV back.
And Kaiser, the wing positions, Maeda and Kuhn, did that surprise you at all, given the fact that Kuhn's came under a bit of probably justifiable stick for his performances up to now? Were you surprised to see him get the nod from the start?
I wasn't really surprised to see him get the nod, right? Because it's a dime a dozen on the wing right now. Who's going to turn up? Who's going to play? Who's actually going to hit the byline and cross the ball? I'm sure they're just going to go through the game first half and then second half. But what I was asking, I commented a few social media posts and I commented on a couple of Celtics uploads on YouTube. The one thing I was begging for was the players to be brave and pass the ball forward. Okay, pass it forward, lose the ball. When one man's doing that, the fans can pick on him. They can go, Greg Taylor keeps losing the ball when he's passing it forward. So the players were a bit fearful of passing the ball forward and taking those risks. And that was all I was asking for the squad to do, was be more adventurous, be more fearful, realise when they pass the ball forward. And even if that play is interrupted and broken up, it gives us a chance to recover the ball higher up the field and play that higher press that we're so good at, or we have been in the past. And I was delighted to see some of that in the game. You know what I mean? I was delighted to see players being brave, especially Greg Taylor. I seen him lose the ball a few times, passing it forward up the wing. I think the distance of the pass, I heard Brendan echo that as well. The distance between the passes was a bit, maybe just a tad too much. So they shortened that up a bit and really came into the game. But I was quite happy with the way the squad performed. I was happy Rocky got a start at the back and a chance. I was also happy that for once we didn't rush Cameron Carter-Vickers back. It wasn't an instant 60 minutes back. As soon as he's back from injury, we actually held him off. We reserved him for the final 30 minutes of the game. And that is when we have looked defensively at our weakest, is in the final 10, 20 minutes of a game. So we have CCV in there, just shoring it up. I think it was shrewd planning and good squad management from Brendan.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about the substitutions later, but let's for now just concentrate on the first half, which I think it's fair to say was a bit of a train wreck. It started badly with Motherwell had the ball in the net in the 3rd minute, which we were relatively fortunate to get pulled back for off. I mean, it was offside, but there wasn't much in it. A couple of, if the boy Bear had delayed his run a few seconds, that he'd have been through and goal, and they put it away. So, Paul, what do you think was going wrong in the first half?
I just don't think we were. I don't think we were well set. I thought Wata came on again second half, but I thought he was playing far too far forward in the first half. There was too big a gap between him and the centre backs. we were disjointed. Kaiser's touched on it. Yeah, great to see forward passing, but just basic passes just going astray. I don't think enough players were showing for it. I think there was a general lack of quality movement, and that was still partly the case in the second half, but it got better towards that last 15, 20 minutes. Just not enough movement. So, it's all well and good saying you want to play forward passes, but if the player on the ball has got very little movement in front of him and the centre-backs have taken 2-3 touches like they often do, then the defence has got time to get it set. So that was still the problem, I think. Certainly first half. The other issue we had, and it's been an issue all year, is wingers turning back in on themselves, coming back to fullbacks, congesting the play. Like Kuhn, I'm loath to make a call on this guy this early on, because we've all been guilty of that in the past. And a player, you look at Israel, and he's been on the books of Bayern and other teams. There's clearly some talent there. He got one opportunity to get the ball out and run 1-on-1, and he skinned his man, and then he sort of looked like he had his boots on the wrong feet and stumbled over it and kind of lost the ball on the edge of the box. I wouldn't be surprised if, the mixture of lack of match sharpness, because he had that bit of a layoff over January and he's not really had a load of minutes, plus confidence. He doesn't look a confident player at the minute. I'm going to sort of veer off into the second half a little bit, but only because by comparison, I want to see him on the left-hand side. Look at Yang when he came on the right-hand side, replaced him, right-footed, got to the byline, got ball swept across. We looked way more dangerous. If Kuhn's got gas and a good left foot, get him on the other side and then get to the byline and get balls across. I think that's our biggest flaw in our setup, and clearly it's something Rodgers likes, but it hasn't worked all season. I don't know why we're continuing to persist with it, especially when in sort of shorter snippets you can see that the right side, the right-footed player or the correct-footed player on the correct wing seems to be paying much more dividends. So, I think we were structurally, we weren't all that sort of connected first half, and I think that probably, and Rodgers mentioned they tweaked a few things at halftime. I think Iwata sat a bit deeper, and so he had a bit more of that cover. I think there was just too big a gap between the midfield and the centre backs, and Motherwell. They look to get that ball, and I've said this before, we're weak on the turn on Scales' side with the ball over the top. He's susceptible to the ball over the top. If it's in front of him and he can head it and block it and all that, he's solid enough. But as soon as you get him on the turn, you're in trouble. And we saw that with the goal that was chopped off rightly, as you say, for offside. We saw it a couple of other times. And part of that came from gaps in between and quick balls over the top because the midfield was a bit splintered.
Yeah, I mean, we were told that Nicholas Kuhn is a guy who's direct and very quick. And so far, we haven't seen anything of that. We certainly haven't seen any evidence that he's fast. And I'll put this to you, Brian. Do you think he should be in the team just now? Or do you think it should be a spell on the bench is what's required, or even out the squad for Kuhn at the moment?
I don't think we'd move him out of the squad, but certainly put him. I think we can't afford to take any chances the remaining games. It'd be great to bring him on if we're 3-0 up against Dundee and give him 20 minutes and let him make a few mistakes and get out there. But there's something, we need everybody to bring their A game. He got bullied, he got ragdoll a bit first half. I thought he was welcome to Motherwell, he got kicked about the place, and then his head went down. And I agree with what Paul said earlier on about he had a chance, he skinned the man, and then the next pass was too long. But I think it's a case of just keep him about the place, but there's no value in sort of binning him out of the squad. But he wasn't the only one that didn't really turn up in the first half, But I wouldn't be starting him. He wouldn't be the go-to guy, And I like what Paul was saying about maybe. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't even risk him on the right hand side. I would keep. I think Yang was fantastic. Keep Yang in there, but Kuhn, I don't know what he needs. Maybe he needs to go and speak with Matt O'Reilly's guru or something, but I don't know. It just that he's come in and the team haven't been great and the fans have been a bit vociferous and, you know, the board and all the rest of it. I just think maybe just wait, give him a couple of weeks. Let's see, but I wouldn't bin him altogether. But he wouldn't be starting for me ever again for a long time, you know.
Yeah, so Kaiser, so we get to the 43rd minute and Motherwell take the lead. I think it's fair to say that it was deserved lead at that time. Can you talk us through the goal and who do you think carries the most culpability for the goal we conceded?
Well, the warning signs were there, as Paul says. The offside goal, Motherwell advancing, us being really splintered and disjointed. So, like, I think lots of players bear the responsibility for conceding that goal. You know what I mean? Lots of people being loose and not marking and not really picking up. But on the whole, it was good play from Motherwell. You know what I mean? They were worth their goal. I think we can all agree that they had a game plan and they stuck to it. You know what I mean? They were, as Paul says, they were targeting our left back area and knocking balls over the top. Just to go back and say about Kuhn, right? I really like Kuhn. I think he's a fantastic player. I don't think we've seen enough of him to really judge him. I think when he was standing at the side of the pitch watching the game and thinking he could come on and make an influence, make a difference, that's one thing. It's a very different thing being that player who comes on and realising the pressure that's at Celtic, being a Celtic player, and then the pressure that's on the players right now from the fans, and him being an outlet on the right-hand side and how poor the wings have been. It just reeks of fear of, like, because he's at a new club, he's not taking the man on. He comes, as Paul said, he comes inside and back and plays the ball back, congesting play. It's very fearful, you know what I mean? I just think, I don't know if a stint on the bench would be good for him, or if that's the kind of thing that you want your player to play through. If he's going to be successful, you're not going to recover for that on the bench. You need to do that on the pitch. But it is starting to look like maybe he should be taken to one side and given a bit of time. The same way Yang was when Yang first arrived. We all looked at him and thought, this guy's not even a winger at times. You know what I mean? And then look at him now. He's thriving now. Just a bit of time to settle and get used to the fans as well.
I think the issue we've got at the minute is that there's no time to bed players in. We're in a dogfight now. Every week we're in every fixture we're in a dog fight, and you know we've got to win every cup. Basically, 10 league games plus hopefully 3 games in the cup. So 13 cup finals between now and the end of the season. How
much pressure is on him being that signing in the January window? With how poor the January window was, you know what I mean, Paul? There's so much pressure on Kuhn.
There is pressure on him, but there's pressure on Ida as well, and he seems to be thriving on it. So, you know, you want players to step up, but I think in the wings, like to your earlier point, we've been so poor on the wings all season. From here to the end of the season, to me, it's you just play the foreign players on each side. So Yang had a great 25 minutes or whatever it was. To me, he starts on Wednesday night. That's a bit of an, and to me, that's what you do. Like you put your form and fit players in, and you get your strongest 11 out every match, and you know, hope that's enough to get us over the line come the end of the season.
I've been thinking the same as well. Sorry, Stephen. I've been thinking the same as well. Again, Stephen. Sorry, you go, mate. I'll chill.
Yeah, the thing about Kuhn is, you know, I get all that about him being a new player and maybe being a bit nervous. But to me, the one thing that a new player should be given should be 100% effort to bust a gut to impress the fans and his new manager and his new squad and all that. And I think he's been found wanting, especially in the tracking back department. The goal we lost against Kilmarnock last week, you know, that Ralston had got pulled into the middle. The ball ended up going out to the right, and there was a man there completely unmarked, and that should have been Kuhn's man. He should have been tracking back with him. And he was able to cross, you know, without any issues, and he scored the equaliser. So I don't think that's acceptable, and I don't think that's an acceptable excuse to say that he's just in the door. Now, we've just let guys like Marco Tilio and Mikey Johnson go out on loan, and both, you know, as luck would have it, scored over the weekend or over the past week or so. Now, I'm not talking these guys up at all, but when you look at them, letting them go, and then look at what Kuhn's delivering. And also guys like Rocco Vata, who seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth again. I think these guys have got just cause to complain when they see a guy like Kuhn not only not playing well, but not giving 100% either. So, guys, go ahead, say what you're going to say there.
I'm just saying, I think there was a reason Kuhn was handed a 5.5-year deal. It's got to be for this half of the season, Kuhn, give him a chance to settle. There's got to be a reason it's a 5.5-year deal. It's a pretty strange deal to hand out, you know what I mean? The rest of the deals all seem to be 5 years. He gets the 5.5 years. I think the recruitment team certainly at Celtic certainly knew that this player would need time to settle. You know what I mean? It's only logical. And as for Mikey Johnson and the lesser spotted Marco Tilio, I think we've seen everything we have to see from Mikey Johnson. It just doesn't look like he's going to fire for us. Maybe he's found his level. Maybe Marco Tilio's found his level. I don't believe we transition the ball fast enough to exploit Tilio's pace. And when I look at Celtic's pace and the players of pace that we do have, Kyogo, Maeda, I can't for the life of me remember the last time we scored a goal on the break or counter-attacked a team. I just can't remember us doing it. We just don't do it. Despite that blaring, blazing pace that we could have, Mikey Johnson on the left, Tilio on the right, Kyogo and Maeda through the middle. That's lightning fast. Ain't no defenders in Scotland catching that. They're all big hammer throwers. But we don't play counter-attacking football because no teams in Scotland come out to faces. They all sit back in a low block. So maybe it's a little, some have column A, some have column B. Some of it is the player, as he says, he's lacking effort, lacking application, and the environment where he's trying to put that effort and imply himself isn't really conducive to his style of play. You know what I mean?
Kaiser, if I can come in, sorry. If you look at Maeda yesterday, he was guilty of moving it too forward, just going too fast at things instead of, whereas I agree with you, Kuhn sort of lacked a bit of application. Where, poor Maeda, he's all around the park. His problem is just this time, and he's maybe 2 seconds too fast, for that diving header. But back to you, Stephen.
Composure.
We'll draw a line under that for now. So, sorry, you go, Paul.
I was just going to say, Maeda's biggest thing is composure, and we've talked about it a lot. Like if he had those kind of little bits and pieces of, a bit tighter technically and a bit more composure, he'd be at a significantly more expensive club and contract than he would be with us. He's just frustrating. But last point I made, he did whip in one really good ball second half, which just flashed across the box, which if Kyogo was still in the park would have been his absolute meat and drink. It was right across the 6-yard box in that kind of corridor of uncertainty. Ada didn't gamble on it. By the time, I can't remember who was on the right-hand wing at that point, but whoever it was, they weren't in quick enough. It might have been Yang. And I think Yang had made some contact, but it was an acute angle by that point. But really, you want your centre forward gambling in there. But I think it's sort of indicative of the fact that we so rarely flash the ball across the front of the box that there was one Johnston, Alistair Johnson flashed one in the first half, and again Kyogo was parked on the penalty spot. Whereas last season he'd have been in sniffing in the 6-yard box. But it's so irregular that we put the ball into that area this season. He's not even in there expecting it.
Yeah, there was a bit of shock on the striker that the ball was even there. You know what I mean? Same with Maeda's chance as well. He's like, "What's this?"
So rare we do it, but look how effective it is when we do.
Exactly.
All right, so into the second half, we made one substitution at half time, and Adamidah came on for Kyogo. I think there was some suspicion at the time that Kyogo had taken a knock on his shoulder, his troublesome shoulder. But I think Brendan confirmed after the game that wasn't the case, and it was a tactical move. I think he said something about Ida being a point of reference for the team, whatever that means, another Brendanism. But it paid off almost immediately. And on 50, let me see, when did we score? It was just after half time, wasn't it?
The 51st minute, I think it was.
Yeah, 51 minutes. So Greg Taylor crossed and a great header from Adamidah. Paul, were you impressed with that goal?
I was. Like, there was clearly a change in directive from from the manager and the coaching team, because, you know, Taylor gets his head up and he swings it in early. That in itself is a surprise to Motherwell, because we've not been putting an early ball in. And he times his run and jump to perfection. He's up above two big centre backs, and it's a great glancing header. It's, you know, I think we're speaking about it in the chat, or we just not seen that kind of goal since Giakoumakis left. And yeah, it's a weapon that most teams, especially most teams in Scotland, it's a weapon that most teams in Scotland and most teams around the world like to have, like somebody that can get between centre backs and get on the end of something. And yeah, it was brilliant by the big man. It was a great delivery by Greg Taylor. And yeah, it had us sort of, you know, by that point, what, you know, you got 40 odd minutes, including, you know, the time added on, and you think, well, here we go. And we didn't really click fully into gear after that. We sort of huffed and puffed for a while. Yeah,
I think we did. I think we were still sort of struggling up until probably in the 61st minute when Narowski came off for CCV and Yang came on. So I think I'll go to you, Brian. What do you think was the most critical substitution out of those two that turned the game? Because from that point on, we pretty much dominated, I thought. Do you think it was Cameron Carter-Vickers' Cameron influence at the back, or do you think it was Yang, as Paul mentioned earlier, he was taking his man on and going on the outside and getting early balls into the box?
I think definitely, well, you know, if I had to pick one, I would pick Yang, but I mean, it's just fantastic having CCV back in there, the Cameron influence, even things like trying to see the game out. You know, Yang, to me, just was a breath of fresh air coming in, taking a man on, a few wee flicks, and he just was able to hold on. He wanted the ball. You know, he wanted to hold on to the ball. He was running up the lines. Again, he great composure for the Palma cross, as you know, for the Palma goal, should I say? But he just looked as if it was another person, another bit of creativity there. So, and it made O'Reilly, I think O'Reilly sort of come into the game a bit more whenever Yang was on the pitch. But no doubt having CCV in that back line, and it's more a case of, you look at the defensive record with him and Starfelt last year, you know, something like they only let in 18 goals, something ridiculous, or 21. But having him there, it's a psychological thing for the other teams. You know, Burr and Spittle know they're in the game and they've the big man in front of them when they've CCV in front of them. You know, it's just that common influence, of decision making, as Paul said as well, composure. You know, and then with him being there, it allows AJ to run up and obviously once AJ took off the mask, he fired one in for the beautiful, handsome Adamidah.
Yeah, I think down our right hand side and their left, from that point on, we were just torturing the Motherwell defence. There was some great little passing triangles between O'Reilly, Johnson, and Yang, and it was almost, dare I say, reminiscent of Ange ball at its finest. So, do you think that was a crucial aspect of the game, Kaiser?
I think having Kyogo up front, right? I've always said, when we had Kyogo and Giakoumakis was there, Kyogo is a sophisticated lockpick for unpicking complex defences. Giakoumakis is a battering ram, but it's good to know when to pick the lock and when to kick the door off the hinges. And that's what we had. That's when Big Adam came on. We had that focal point. We had that target man up front who we could pump the ball into, and he can hold it up. He can hold off the defender. He could turn on a dime and maybe snap off a shot. As well as having Ida holding up the ball in the centre, we also discovered an outlet in Yang and started making inroads into pushing forward. As Brian said, Matt O'Reilly came much more out of the game, started looking more like his earlier season self. And Alistair Johnston overlapping and turning supplier as well was absolutely fantastic. Really had a good time on the right-hand side of the pitch. I think, as we've seen from earlier in the game, Motherwell were definitely in the game. Their tactics were working. They were looking to pump the ball forward over the top, hit the big man themselves, hold up the play, and maybe hit us on the break. CCV coming on, definitely, as I said earlier on, 100% calming influence. The last 15, 20 minutes of games, we've just been We've looked like tissue paper at the back, you know what I mean? It's been like Takeshi's Castle. It's like maybe paper rings and the guy's got a squishy gun. You know what I mean? They've just been tearing through us at the back. So having a bit of rigidity, a bit of strength coming in and that calming influence towards the end of the game really, really made a difference for me. But if I was forced into a corner and made to pick one player who made that difference, it's got to be Yang for the outlet. Okay, Ida holding the ball up, and that gave us something going forward. But Yang really brought a lot of other players into the game by just taking on his man, hitting the byline and crossing the ball. How simple. You know what I mean? How simple a strategy. And I don't know who at Celtic can't sit Daizen Maeda down and show him a videotape of Didier Agat and say, look, all he does there is knock the ball past the guy and then run. Just do some of that, Daizen. You know what I mean? You don't need to do a step over. Just knock the ball past him and run. He's got to be faster than every defender in Scotland. I just don't know why. And Paul also hit on it as well. If I've got a good left-footed player, why play him on the right-hand side? Play him on the left. He'll stop coming inside. He'll be forced to hit the byline and cross the ball. Play him on his predominant foot, on his predominant side. It seems all too logical. You know what I mean? I think there's managers in the Premiership who just come up against Celtic and they go, right, move the right back to left back and move the left back to right back. And we've neutralised their players coming inside and they never go on the outside. They never drive the line, which a winger needs to vary his play. He needs to offer a different dimension to draw players in. It's just not happening. I don't know why it's not happening. And as Paul touched on, whoever's in form, that's who we play. Simple as that. That's the only way we're going to get through this. And then the players who are willing to step up to the mark and have courage, they're going to step up and they're going to be rewarded, not only by the club, by getting more games, but by the fans, by being supported, because that's what we're here to do. You know what I mean? You play for us and we'll sing for you, as the famous song goes.
All right, Paul, I'll give you the floor regarding Liam Scales. Now, obviously, when Cameron Carter-Vickers came on, it was Narowski who made way. When I think a lot of people are champing at the bit to see a combination of Narowski and CCV. What do you think that's just down to the fact that Scales is left-footed, or do you think there's any other reason why he's keeping him in there?
Well, based purely on yesterday, and the amount of run of games and sort of match sharpness, fitness, I haven't got too many grievances with Scales staying on for the remainder of that game. Because then you're only making one substitution instead of, one substitution and a positional change and asking Nawrocki to move from right to left. But certainly, I think I've been saying this for a little while, and I've been shouted down a few times because it seems to be an attack on Scales. But he's not, like, I think most of the fan base have come round to the opinion that he isn't good enough for the long term. He's done a good job. He's played above expectations, but let's be honest, the expectations were low. My view is his level is another Premier League team, Aberdeen. And look, that's where he would be if it wasn't for the crisis we had at centre back at the beginning of the season. So Nawrocki I was very keen for him to start. And, with or without CCV yesterday, he was a bit nervous first half. He probably wasn't up to maybe the standard he has been of late, but nobody played well. I'm a big advocate of him getting a start next to CCV on Wednesday night. And they're for me, they're the future at centre-back pairing if both can remain fit. Scales has got his limitations and got his weaknesses. He's played out. Look, don't get me wrong. He's played out with skin. He's done a great effort for his level, but he isn't at the level we need sort of going forward and longer term. So for me, he'd be on the bench and let's give CCV and Nawrocki, because both of them can play the ball forward. Both of them can step out of defence, and both of them are quicker to move the ball on. And Scales needs 3 touches usually. And that's one of the reasons. It's one of the key reasons. One, we've persisted with him being somehow the focal point of the distribution out from the back. And he's the one who needs the longest to get it under control and push it forward. So we just allow teams to get set. therefore we don't break the lines. So yeah, like Scales has started to, he played out of his skin and he played above himself for a long time. I feel like he's reverting back closer to his level in the last few games, but he's been susceptible all season to the ball over the top, and we just luckily haven't been caught out with it by that many times. But I think teams have started to realise not only is left back an issue, but left centre back's an issue, and that whole side is weak, weak and vulnerable.
See, I don't see. I've seen this opinion of Liam Scales growing in the community, right? I've seen the Celtic fans growing this community of Liam Scales. I just don't see where that opinion comes from. For me, I think Liam Scales has been absolutely fantastic. Okay, he picks the ball up, he maybe take an extra touch, but he's the guy who's driving out of defence. Time and time again, he's picking up the ball and he's driving forward. He seems to be the only person out of defence who can take the ball. Yeah, but he is doing it, but Paul, right? And he is playing out his skin. And Celtic fans saying, I think he's found his level. But what was he doing in the Champions League? You know what I mean? What was he doing in the Champions League? Playing absolutely out of his skin. Is the Champions League his level? Is Aberdeen his level? I think Celtic's his level. I think he's a great player. I think you'd never look a gift horse in the mouth. We've got Liam Scales there. And yes, certainly we can upgrade on that position. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. If we had
we've got an upgrade in the squad. Nawrocki's a better player than Scales by some
distance. I don't necessarily think Nawrocki is a better player than Liam Scales. We've not seen enough of Nawrocki to stack him side by side with Scales and go, he's better than him. Nawrocki's awful slow. You know what I mean? I've seen Milk turn faster in the freezer. In my honest opinion, he's one of the slowest centre-backs we've got at Celtic. And for me, playing him on right centre-back and swapping him like for like, that was an obvious choice, bringing CCV on. I just think, well, there is flaws in the squad and there is areas we can look at to improve, i.e. on the wings, left back, the goalkeeping area. We've been saying this for a long time. I don't think we need to go kicking over stones and ousting cunts' arses out the door when they're playing well. You know what I mean? Liam Scales is playing well. I just think you let him play that, and if he's going to burn himself, then you let him burn himself. Us as a fan group, us as fans, we don't need to burn players. You know what I mean? I just think he's been fantastic.
It's not burning him to say that he's not up to quality. That's not a burn. I've just said he's played out his
game. Burn. If my wife says that to me, I would be disappointed. Hey, Kaiser, it's not up to quality. I'd be gutted.
Well, do we think Tony Ralston is first choice right back? No, we don't. And by the same token, Scales isn't a first choice left back. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think he's a first choice left back either, but left centre back.
Sorry, left centre back. I don't think he's a first choice left centre back. There's a comment in there.
Kobayashi.
Well, he's nowhere near it either. Part of the problem this season is we've regressed as a squad, and now we're starting to accept it. There's a comment in there that says if Starfelt was still here, he wouldn't be getting a sniff, and he's absolutely spot on. He's a massive downgrade on Starfelt, and that's the level we were at, and that's the level we should be trying to get back to.
And look, they maybe spoke about Starfelt when he was here.
I didn't, but some people did. I've been a big fan of Starfelt.
So we'll move on from Liam Scales. So we get the 2 goals in injury time, and we win the game. And it was never really in doubt. I think we can all agree. But I just want to talk a bit about Brendan Rodgers' post-match interviews, particularly the one with Radio Scotland, where I think we saw a different side to Brendan, where he was given the same message in a few different interviews. The fact that I think he was saying that the story for the season had already been written for this Celtic team, but we would write our own story. And then he was pulled up on that by Jane Lewis from BBC Scotland, and he wasn't too happy about it, and he kind of rinsed her a bit, and he made a little bit of a comment which I wasn't entirely comfortable with, of the misogynistic nature, and I think if we're being true to ourselves, we would call out a Rangers manager for saying something like that. So I think it's only fair to say that Brendan was a little bit out of order there. Paul, what did you think of Brendan's post-match interviews?
You're right. He had a set agenda because he pretty much gave the same answer to one degree or another. In I've heard it, the BBC Scotland one, which is the one that's got a lot of airtime. The Celtic TV one was obviously softer kind of questioning, but it was the same message. Sky Sports, I think, was similar, and I think I've heard a version on Clyde as well. So that's 4 interviews I've heard, and effectively he said, the stories, people want to say the story's all written, well, we write our own stories. So it's quite it's a nice little snippet that he's obviously had that pre-planned up his sleeve, because he gave it to everyone. But the one you're in question is, so I don't think it's that great. It's a little bit, to me, it's patronizing more than it's borderline misogynistic, but it's the girl bit that's patronizing and a bit misogynistic.
Well, he does.
He's not going to say good woman, is he? Because you just don't say that. But he says good man, good lads to all the male interviewers.
Yeah,
so
Ans would have said mate. He says good lad, good girl.
I just think it's a bit, but the thing is, she rattled him. She rattled him because he gave her an answer and she didn't let it go, and she basically persisted and asked the same question 2 or 3 times, and he basically told her to get. The only weird thing about that is there's more than one voice in the background around there. So I don't know if it's a producer, I don't know if it's a media person from Celtic, but there's somebody else that says, well, we're done, and it's not Rodgers that says that, and then the good girl comment comes after that. So I've seen some people saying, is it even him that made that comment? I don't know, but I think as usual, it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. But I think he's just been patronizing more than anything else, which is, that's not the best. Like, we'd prefer if I don't mind him putting the press in their place, but I think he felt like he lost his composure a little bit, and you'd prefer if he kind of kept his cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But I think if he could choose his words again, he would probably choose a slightly different tact.
I think
what's your take on that? Sorry, Brian, go.
No, I was going to say he said worse this season. When he mentioned about the war.
Mm-hmm.
So the good girl comment, to me, it's part of that. It's like the Alec Ferguson, Kevin Keegan. We really love to beat them. I think it's just he's taking the pressure off the players. You know what I mean? He's making it all about him, and he's protecting the players by doing that. So there could be a bit of psychology in there. The fact, Paul, you said that he had the same kind of narrative, the 3 different, Clyde, BBC, and Sky, and Celtic TV. So I think he's just protecting the players, and let them talk away about it. Let them talk about it, and as we beat Dundee and push on, who cares, really?
Well, he had a bit of an altercation the other week as well, didn't he? When he was asked why 2 players had been dropped, and he said, "Well, they weren't dropped; they weren't dropped." So he didn't even say they'd been rotated, but it amounted to the same thing. So I don't know if he's. I think he says he isn't, because he was asked that after that comment, the one where he said he wasn't dropped. He was asked, do you feel that there's a bunker mentality? Are you creating a bunker mentality, a siege mentality? Is everyone against us? And he said, no, we're not creating that. But I absolutely think he is starting to try and create that. So yeah, he's playing the media to some degree.
For me, he's only reacting to the narratives that are built. I mean, we seen Baldermore a couple of weeks ago absolutely lose the rag in an interview at Parkhead and demand the interviewer answer his questions. They were then seen him sent off in a friendly match. And the press are not highlighting this and capitalising on every wrong foot or every wrong play or every player downturn at Ibrox, are they? But everything at Celtic is under a microscope. So I think Brendan's 110% correct. Other people want to write the story. Other people want to build the narrative. But the squad need to build their own. And at the end of the day, if there's a guy in a line and I say, well done, mate, well done, hen, is somebody going to come and pull me up and go, oh, what if that person identifies as a cheese sandwich, Kaiser? Tough fucking shit for that person. I can only call it as I see it. I'm a normal guy. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm sure Brendan didn't really mean anything by it. But if you want to read into that narrative and paint that point, I'm sure Brendan will just roll that right up and include that in the siege mentality he's looking to build, because that's definitely what it is. It's us against the world.
The thing about it is, there is a siege mentality because it's our league. We have the championship trophy, and it's up to them to win it. And it's not an easy thing to do, to win a league. So it's in our hands. And yeah, if some people are coming along and writing Celtic off, brilliant. Let them write us off. Chris Boyd and this other, don't even know who she is, but
That's for you, Paddy.
that's for you.
Kisses for Paddy.
All right, let's
Call
move
you
on
legend,
before we get any
Paddy.
bother.
You know that.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing, Stephen, about that I was really happy with at the game, and I haven't seen Celtic do it a long time, was Adamidah holding the ball up in the corner flag, forcing them into to make a challenge when they were 2-1 down, and ultimately led to, the Yang cross for the Palma goal. And I just wondered, did any of you look at McGregor? There's footage on Twitter or on X that McGregor sort of shouting at Palma as if to say, "You're gonna, you got booked there," unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did notice that. I'm not sure if that was the best thing for Palma. I mean, I understand he was trying to put a message out in support of his friend, but I don't really think when he was only on the pitch for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He knocked the ball into an empty net and the jersey's come off. So, I don't know if that was the best thing, but I guess it's not worth making a drama out of it.
I don't know what was said there between Palma and Callum McGregor. You know what I mean? He could have says, "Why'd you pull your top off and get a yellow card?" Once again, lip reading and body language. He could have pushed him and said, "Let's fucking go." How do we know? I don't know what he said. You know what I mean? I would think he would say you could lift your top up and expose that message. You didn't need to take it off and pick up a booking. Maybe something like that. You know what I mean? He is captain of the club. He is looking to pull all the players in one direction. I do think Palma needs his ego put in check a little bit. I think he came in and he's played well, and he's been very self-serving and self-sufficient. He only looks out for him. I think Callum McGregor's just bringing him down a little notch or two. Like, just you calm that down a little bit there, son. Which is, I was delighted to see that for Callum McGregor. You know what I mean? Delighted to see that.
All right, we'll move on from the game.
Sorry, Stephen. One last thing on the game. Lennon Miller, thought he had a really good game, particularly first half. He was involved in everything that looked dangerous. And for me, he's a player we should have an eye on. 18, 19 years old. We've seen us miss out on the best talent in Scotland too often because we've been snobbish about what's underneath our noses. He's a player, and I think we should be trying to get him at the club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's a good shout. But I wouldn't like to see us signing him and disappearing into our sort of youth setup, a way to play butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers in the Lowland League. So I think he's in the right place just now. As long as we are tracking his progress, I think playing, SPFL football against top teams is probably the right place for him. So if we were to buy him, it might be a good idea to buy him and loan him back to Motherwell for maybe this season and next. Mm-hmm. But it definitely caught the eye yesterday. A very good player.
Yeah, he's going to be better developing than he is wasting away in our youth system. You know what I mean, Stephen? I think that's spot on. Buying those players and loaning them out as well.
Well, look at Quan in the short time he's been at St Mirren. I've seen their fans are making videos about him already because
Quan will tear you apart.
Well, yeah, you've seen it as well.
This morning, bro. I was in pieces. I was like, man, Quan.
But we've talked about this a lot, and as have most other Celtic fans, is if players aren't getting a game and aren't immediately in and around the squad, then get them out to Premier League teams. It's worked in the past. Christie, Aya. Quan's looking like, he might not make it our level, but he's certainly getting a test at that level. And you're right, players like Lennon Miller. I just worry that we leave it too late and then richer clubs come in over the top. So I think buying them early and loaning them back is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to the news at the end of last week that Joe Hart announced his retirement from football at the end of the season. So 98 appearances so far for Celtic. A trophy haul so far of 2 league titles, 1 Scottish Cup and 2 League Cups. Would we call Joe Hart a successful signing? Brian, I'll go to you first.
Definitely. Okay, goalkeeping ability, probably 7 out of 10. But as a person, and the thing I loved about Joe Hart, we were playing, I think it was away in the Champions League qualifier, and he just come in. He'd signed like the Monday afternoon, and he was on the plane to go on the Tuesday. I think that was the game Abada scored. It was away from home, Kaiser. Do you know, was it, my memory's gone.
I think you were right, Brian. I think that was
it was like 4-2. He let it, it was, I think we won 3-2 or 4-2 or something like that. But he was committed to the cause. He came in. He's been an ultimate professional. He's been a nice guy. He's been a good lad around the changing room, and he's been very, very appreciative of the Celtic fans and what it means to play for the club. And another thing, what I really liked about him was, remember the game in Ibrox, and they were throwing bottles on the pitch. Like he had the balls to go up to, I think it was Willie Collum at the time, and lifted the pieces of glass from it. What are you doing here? And I just really liked that. I just thought, keeping these SPFL officials in check, you know what I mean, and bring a bit of professionalism to it. It was like everyone else was sort of looking around, looking heads down, when he was pretty much saying, I'm not going to play on this. He had the balls to do that. And fair play to him. He's been a lovely guy. He's been a pleasure to listen to. He's never hid. He's always come out, even in the bad times. He's maybe made a balls up, or, he's just been a nice fella, and he's a real team player. And I wish him all the best. And I wouldn't say he's a legend, but certainly he's up there. He's never going to be a fantastic goalie. His age is against him, but a real good player. And if we didn't get Joe Hart, where would we be? Sitting up with cabbage hands. What was his name? I can't remember. Barkas. He came in and did it. Him and CZV. He'd be sorely missed. Nice guy.
Cabbage hands, broccoli balls, Barkas. Holographic hands himself.
Paul, what about the timing of this announcement? Anything significant in that?
I think it's quite smart. Because let's be honest, we all know there's been speculation of the goalkeeping position since probably this time last year. And with a view to not necessarily replacing him, out and out, but at least having somebody in to put him under pressure. Like, we haven't got even a backup goalie, never mind two. You would want being as far from the first team as possible, and Siegrist is basically permanently on holiday with his Aussie girlfriend. So we don't really have backup goalkeepers. We need two in the summer now. But there's that constant speculation, and what he's done is killed it. So we know that he's the number one for the rest of the season. Fingers crossed he stays fit. And now he's ended the speculation, which could just grumble on all season, and potentially take focus away from what we're trying to achieve. So I think it's a pretty good move, certainly for the club and maybe for him. It gives him clear focus. He was pretty matter of fact about his decision. He's thought about it, he's decided, but then that's parked where we've still got stuff to win. And I love his attitude. Brian's right. He's been a great addition. He's an absolute leader. You see how much it means to him. He knows, even before he made the decision, he knows it was whether he played on for another season or two. He knows this is the last big club he would play for. If he wanted, and that's probably why he's calling it. There was some talk he might go to the MLS and he could do that and make money. He could go to the Middle East. He could make more money, but he's made a ton of money already. And we know by the fact he came and signed for us that it wasn't really about money. He'd had that rough period where he'd bounced around clubs, Burnley and Torino and stuff like that. And obviously he found a home for the latter part of his career. And I think he's sort of appreciative of that, and he kind of wants to go out at the top. So, I think it's well timed. It takes a lot of the issues off the table. He's done a really good job. Yes, he's on the wane, but if it wasn't for Joe Hart, I'm happy to put this on the record. If it wasn't for Joe Hart, we'd already be out of our title race, I reckon. He's kept us in. He's turned 0 points into 1 point, and he's turned 1 point into 3 points over the last few weeks since the turn of the year. So, despite the fact he's still not as good as he once was, and we do need to replace that position, he's been worth his weight in gold. And I hope he's got a few more big performances and he can help lead us to a double with a bit of luck.
Yeah, spot on, Paul. I felt big Joe Hart coming in, right? Being a Celtic goalkeeper is a very special position. You can do nothing, absolutely nothing for 60 minutes and then be forced into a world-class save. And I know you would think playing against opponents in Scottish football and stuff, they're absolutely trying their best. They're giving it their all, of course, to beat the champions. So for Joe to spring into action and make those saves, I think it's fantastic. And also, as Paul touched on there, for him to come out and take control of the narrative, take control of the story, and announce his retirement at the end of the season, it stops us worrying about the club maybe extending a year, keeping him longer. Maybe some people would want him to stay longer. I think he's a fantastic player, right? We could definitely do with holding on with him, rather than going back to that frivolous world of trying to find a working goalkeeper, as we've seen that went wrong with Barkas. But I think Joe coming out and announcing that retirement is going to happen, it takes the muddied water that we're going to see for the club in the summer when it comes to recruiting players. It takes that out of the way. We've not got 2 weeks of them saying there might be a deal for Joe Hart coming up. That's gone now. There's none of that's happening. It's just instantly in and searching to fill that position, which I think is fantastic. And Joe's obviously took control of that narrative, because regardless of what happens at the end of the season, us as fans, we're going to be behind him. We're going to be in support of him. If he makes a mistake, we're going to know that's possibly one of the last mistakes we're ever going to see him make. So he's possibly going to get a bit more leniency in taking control of that narrative. I think it's very intelligent. Shrewd move by Joe Hart. Consummate professional, highly intelligent guy, a leader on and off the park. I think he'll go into coaching, definitely. You see where he interacts with keepers and players at the end of the game. I can definitely see him getting into that kind of role. Maybe not at us, maybe somewhere else, but definitely. I think also, right, just before I drift off the subject, while Joe Hart was at Celtic, England international, you know, he stood on the halfway line and sung the English national anthem, and there we were, laughing at the death of the Queen and mocking that in general Celtic terms. And he stood there and he took all that and must have suffered a lot of slings and arrows from down south for our conduct then. But you didn't see him throwing an adamidah and refusing to play. Toys at the pram, consummate professional. Absolutely love Joe Hart.
Didn't he? Remember, it was the anniversary of John Thompson. He really embraced that. I can't remember what date it was, but I remember him being very. Don't know if he wore a commemorative armband or something like that, but I remember he was definitely he was singing the Callum McGregor song with Butland and all the rest of it. But I remember the John Thompson thing. I remember I was really impressed by that.
Butland still sings that song, Brian.
Does
Butland
he?
still sings that song to this day.
All right, we're ticking on. We're knocking on in time a bit here, so I'll grab next. Obviously, we've got a very important game. The games are coming thick and fast now. So we're at home in Dundee on Wednesday night. So, Paul, what do you expect? What are you hoping to see from the team lineup, and what's your score prediction?
Well, as I sort of touched on earlier, I just hope we play form players. I hope we play wingers that suit their feet. I'd start Young. I'd probably start Maeda. But you could toss up between him or Palmer. Wouldn't be too concerned with either. Ada's got to start for me. Kyogo takes his place on the bench. Maybe it's a hard one because I didn't think McGregor played that well yesterday, and O'Reilly did come into a game. But I don't see the point in bringing Iwata in and then chopping, changing him back out again. So toss up for me on whether you go with Iwata or I think McGregor's better in that position than he is further forward these days. I think especially when like Bernard, I think Bernard has had a rough deal. Like I think he's not really done too much wrong, and he's sort of lost his place for positional changes. First for the 4-4-1, and then to accommodate Cal further forward. But at least we've got choices. There was a period where we didn't really have much to pick from. So, I'm not going to get too fussy. I think, any three from those four, I'm fine with in midfield. And yeah, as I said, I'd like to see the new centre-back pairing. I don't think we'll see it. I think we'll see CCV back and Scales will be alongside him. And a few people have made a comment on the point in the comments, and it'd be unfair to not note that. The good thing about CCV is it doesn't really matter who plays beside him. They will be better, and the whole unit will be better for his presence. So whilst I prefer to see what I think is our best centre-back pairing, CCV being back is a major thing for me. So hopefully he's come through that 30 minutes fine. And really. I think Plunge McNugget said in the comments as well, if he stays fit, we win the league, and there's probably a fair amount of truth in that. I think him staying fit and Hatate coming back just as we're hitting, hitting the split. If we're still in contention by then, momentum could be big at that point. So yeah, prediction. Hopefully, I predicted 3-1 the other night on Thursday and somehow managed to get that one right. So 1 for 1. I don't expect to get 2 for 2, but I'd be delighted to see a clean sheet and maybe another couple, 2 or 3 goals of an advantage. So 2 or 3-0, I'd be delighted with.
Could you imagine the fear that teams would have knowing that if things aren't working for us, Kyogo's on the bench? Do you know what I mean? As you say, Paul, it's just getting the bench back again, getting everyone on the bench to help the squad.
Yeah.
And what's your score prediction, Brian?
3-0 Celtic.
Yeah.
Kaiser?
I think Paul's spot on there. There a lot said. Play the informed players, whether played their best the last game. You can be only as good as your last game. It makes no sense to drop Iwata after bringing him in the last time. Definitely start Iwata. Roll with the same squad, same formation, other than swapping Kyogo and Kun. Yeah, for me, that seems pretty appropriate. We have struggled at home. The fans do tend to get a little bit nervous towards the end of the game. Pressure can be on. But I'm hoping that we continue the second half performance, and that was the turning point for us this season. The fans turn up at Paradise in fine voice, ready to sing for the players. We all get right behind the team and we kick on. And a 3-0 victory, I think Paul's spot on. I think you've got to be 2 in a row here, Paul. Get a 5er on it.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope so.
Let's probably put a kibosh on it.
Yeah, I mean, these home games have been a flog by and large for the whole season, haven't they? So let's just hope we get an early goal and then another one, put the game to bed, start playing a little bit of expansive football and maybe rack up a few goals, because I can't escape the notion that the goals difference is going to come into this at the end of the year. So we need to get scoring again. And a game at home with Dundee is probably the best time to do it. So hopefully maybe a 3 or 4 goal victory would be fine.
11 games left in it, Stephen. 11 games left. 11 1-0s, and we win the league. 3 points a time. I don't care. You know what I mean? The goal difference doesn't come into it. If we give them a good scalping, they can keep the goal difference, bro. The same way the board can keep the 60 million and boost to Barbados, and we'll start afresh next season. You know what I mean? Love it. We'll just take no money. You just can take it on, beat it. I'd be happy with that. Definitely.
All right, so move on. Just quickly do our Celtic socials. I'll put this one up just now. I think this was yours, Brian. Do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah, it's the lookalike. I was looking last night. Stuart Kettlewell, Eddie Munster. You could probably say I'm in that category as well, but he looked a bit.
3 generations. Got 3 generations.
3 generations. The 3
you,
generations.
Kettlewell and Eddie.
Yeah, I'd be like, what do you call
the hairline?
The hairline. What do you call it? The grandfather and the Bela Lugosi character and the Munsters. But no, he did look a bit. He did look a bit like Eddie Munster there. So just a bit of crack, bit of fun.
It was funny. I seen that as well, Brian. That was funny, man.
All right, so I'll just pull up one more that I liked, and I think we've mentioned this one already. So this was on Alistair Johnson's Twitter. And it's just a nice wee picture of him and Cameron Carter-Vickers having a bit of a brace on the ground.
He must have watched that. Probably. Yeah. He must have watched that video that's doing the rounds off the Devonish. There you
go. He's trying to check CCV's shots for a job.
Joining the pleasure, boys. BHOYS.
The least said about the Devonish, the better.
Yep.
I've not been spotted in the videos yet.
No, you've not been spotted.
No, I'm the wee guy in the background.
There's certain ways we can tell that's no you, Kaiser.
Yeah. The baby's arm swinging between the guy's leg.
All right, just one more before we go. I'm just going to share this one. If you're in the Glasgow area this Friday, or is it Thursday? Sorry, Thursday the 29th. The Celtic Trust are holding an open meeting in Gracie's Irish Bar in the Merchant City. Myself and a couple of guys from this channel were on a meeting, a Zoom call with the Celtic Trust last week to discuss methods we could maybe use to implement some change at the club. And the Celtic Trust have got this campaign on the go called the Drive Towards 5, where they're buying up Celtic shares, any that they can get their hands on, with a view to attaining 5% of the club shareholding. Now that doesn't seem much, but they're already the 8th largest shareholder at the club, and I think if they reach 5%, it triggers some mechanisms within the PLC, whereas they can table motions at AGMs and they can also call EGMs. So it is a significant figure, and obviously, it's everyone's free choice whether they want to support these things or not. But I think there is a chunk of the support now believes that change is required in the governance of the club. So if you can, and I look at you, Kaiser, if you're in the Glasgow area, get yourself along there. At the moment, there's no remote link, but I think they mentioned if there was enough interest, if there were enough people email the trust and asking for a remote link, then they might organise one. So that's on this Thursday night in Gracie's.
I'll definitely be there. So if anyone from chat, anyone for the comments in the Glasgow area is going to be there at Gracie's on Thursday night, make sure you come over and say hello to the Kaiser. Warning, I do not buy people drinks, but I do accept drinks from people. You know what I mean? One of they guys.
Aye, one of them. All right, guys, I think that's we've gone over time. I'll get a row from Gav for being too long now, but who cares? That's been good fun. So thanks, Paul. Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Kaiser.
Thank you, legend. Thanks for having us,
guys. All the best.
Thanks, chat, as well, for being here.
And thanks for everyone in the comments. Appreciate them all, and we'll catch you all down the road.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.